Chad Townsend plays on, plays to the whistle, kicks away for Valentine. Townsend! I love this game.
All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Chad Townsend Show. It has been an actual minute since we've recorded a podcast, but finally we are up here in the north, all settled, and I thought it is the perfect time to get the podcast back up and running. And I thought today's podcast would be a little bit different. Instead of me, I guess, interviewing and asking a lot of the questions, I've decided to get a good friend of mine on today to facilitate and run us through, I guess, what has gone on in my life over the last 18 months since we last recorded the podcast. I think it was maybe nearly 2 years ago, which I was recording in my spare bedroom back home in Sydney. And I have moved states, changed clubs twice, had a lot going on off the field with the family as well. So I thought I would introduce and bring on, like I said, a friend of mine who I've done a little bit of work on. His name is Elliot. He is one half of the AB and Elliot show, the Rush Hour on Triple M, which he's absolutely killing it. Very qualified to speak today. And unfortunately, he does support two teams that I'm not a big fan of. So he does support the Buccaneers. Yeah. And he does support another NRL team, which we're not going to go into. But Elliot, Lovejoy, mate, thanks for coming on today, mate.
No, I appreciate you having me, Chad. The other NRL team we don't need to talk about because I try not to. They make me too sad. And the Buccaneers, yeah. And it needs to be stated that it was Buccaneers.
Day one.
Through Mike Lennon, through Jameis Winston, and a whole lot worse as well.
30 for 30. So you've had a rough.
Yeah.
That's like me with the Browns. I'm day one Browns.
You've had no good memories with the Browns. I think that's the difference.
It was when Odell Beckham came over. That was like when everyone sort of started buying the Beckham 13 jerseys, and I've stuck solid ever since. Yeah. But mate, thanks for coming on today. Like I said, we're going to run through a bit about my life. I thought it'd be great for the audience to sort of get an insight about and hear it straight from me and my mouth. Yeah. And mate, like I said, very, very qualified in this area. So thanks for coming on.
I mean, the good thing is, especially the past 12 to 18 months for you, there's questions that you haven't even answered for me, so I'm looking forward to deep diving. But that period where, so you're at the Sharks, and then you went out on loan to the Warriors, you busted your shoulder, it was first appearance, first few minutes in?
My first touch of my first game, yeah. Yep.
When you went off the field, then you would have known you'd done something pretty seriously. Was there any part of your brain that thought that could have been your last ride in the NRL?
No, not really. I remember the incident happened. It was literally my first touch of my first game. Tarek Sims came at me from the inside, kick pressure, hit me in the air. I fell over, completely crushed my shoulder, reached over, felt my shoulder, and it was just like in pieces. And I was like, oh man, I said to the trainer, I'm in trouble here. And, the next stop in play, I got a pad on it, and I couldn't tackle with my right shoulder for the rest of the game. I stayed on. I played the end of the game, which in hindsight was stupid and wrong of me. I wish I didn't do that. It put myself in a compromised position, but I was trying to do the right thing for the team. I just changed clubs. So I wanted to, show the Warriors, the fans, the members that I was, there to play. But unfortunately, I was a shell of what I could potentially do, and it hampered me for the rest of that season. Yeah.
So when that's done, and I reckon I'm like a lot of people, you're scrolling through social media and you see Chad Townsend to the Cowboys and to do a triple take because it's not probably a move that I would have ever seen coming. How'd the conversations take place there? And it seemed on the outside like it was a really quick deal that got done.
Yeah, so this happened, the start of 2021. So maybe like round 4, I remember getting a message from my manager saying the Cowboys are interested and wanted to have a conversation with you. And I was like, look, yep, I'd love to go and hear what they have to say. So my contract status at the Sharks was I had an option in my favour to stay, and then the option for the year after was the club's option. So basically I had 1 year sort of guaranteed there. And yeah, like I said, I had a great meeting with Todd, Michael Lark, and Dane, the recruitment manager. And I remember going home from that meeting, speaking to my wife and saying, what they want is exactly what I can be. Yeah. And it sort of gave me tingles leaving the conversation. And within like a couple of days I had an offer, and within a week we'd agreed and we'd signed the contract. So it happened really quickly. And for me, it was just a time where I wanted to move and change and, grow. Yeah. I'd moved to New Zealand when I was younger put my career first, and I wasn't, afraid of making a tough decision to try and grow. But the easy thing for me to do, I think, would have been to stay. I'm from Cronulla, all my family and friends are there, but for me, football, and family come first, so I was prepared to make that decision.
How did you sell your wife on the humidity? Because my partner's from the UK, and when I said, because we met in the Middle East, and it was pretty warm there, don't get me wrong, and then when we're moving to Australia, she said, we're going to be in surf beaches and sort of 25 degrees during the day. I'm like, yep. 99% humidity, 40 degrees in summer in Townsville. Is it a hard sell?
Yeah, I mean, it was. It wasn't because, my wife, she's so supportive. Yeah. She's a great mother. At the end of the day, we were making this decision for me, and it's what I wanted to do, and she's there to support me in my career, and understanding that, a professional football career isn't forever. So, to make those sacrifices has been huge for us, and it was a little bit of a conversation about the weather, that's for sure, especially in summer, as you know. But yeah, look, it was one of the best decisions that we ever made.
Yeah. When I remember you telling me a bit about this, I'd love if you deeper dove. I remember you said when you first saw a bit of preseason training at the Cowboys, and don't get me wrong, you can quite obviously see everyone in that organisation is bought into what Toddy's doing now, but it was, I suppose, earlier days of his tenure into the start of his second year when you first got there. The standards weren't necessarily what they were at the end of the season. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. I think, when I arrived in Townsville, obviously the team had just come off probably a poor season, and, they wanted to change a lot of things. And I remember speaking to Todd, and he just said he wanted the team to be, mentally stronger. And from day one, the team just bought in. And I remember, going to training and looking at some of the younger guys who go back to training before, I guess, the veterans return. And they, their body language was really poor. I remember if some of them made an error, heads were down. If someone did something really well at training, no one would go over and high five him and say, "Mate, well done." And that was the first thing I said on day one. I was like, "Look, boys, we need to create our own energy and our own atmosphere. We play a lot of games away in Sydney where we don't have a lot of travelling fans. So who do we look to when we need something? It's ourselves. So if your teammate does something well, you go over, high five him, pat him on the back, and celebrate that, because we work so hard. But if your teammate makes an error, you need to pick him up, because we'll need him to make a play the next time." So, and the guys, bought into that, plus everything that Toddy did since day one. And that was probably one of the things that was probably most enjoying about our season just gone.
Was it from day one that you believe the team could do something special? Because again, I know you guys become very good at blocking out outside noise. I can't do it. As soon as I'm close to a golf score, I shit the bed. So it's an impressive thing that athletes can do. But outside noise and the experts, let's call them, were tipping you, if not to finish last, bottom four, and certainly not go on the run. I thought, maybe that team could make the 8. I would have never thought you could have done what you did and make a prelim. Yeah,
definitely. Look, I had faith that we'd make the 8 for sure. I was aiming for top 8, definitely. I remember speaking to Drinky and Val before we'd started preseason, and I just remember the way I was talking. I was like, "Look, we can be the best in the comp at this. We can be the best at the comp at this," and talking a bit about footy. And I don't know if Drinky actually believed what I was saying, because he'd come off a season or 2 or 3 of not winning, and for me, I was like, "Look, you got to think it's confidence. I know what's inside of you, Drinky. You're an absolute gun, and look what he did this season." So look, a lot of people wrote us off, and that's the game we play. And, people have their opinion, and you have to learn to live with it. And for me, I know that I use a lot of it as motivation, and other players have other sources of motivation, but proving some people wrong was definitely part of my personal motivation.
Drinky's a wild one, because if what we have is true, he was outstanding at fullback for you last year when he came in for the Hammer after a few games because the Hammer was injured, but he hadn't even played a little bit of fullback in pre-season. Yeah,
definitely. That's one of the craziest things that, Drinky, had a whole pre-season, basically at 5'8", had played the last couple of seasons at 5'8", had played a little bit of fullback, but hadn't done one rep at fullback. And, Hammer obviously got injured early in the year, and Toddy, decided to put Drinky at the back there, and he just played lights out from the first moment. He really bought in. He trained really, really hard. He had a great mental approach with how he wanted to go about his business. And, you know, he reaped the rewards from the hard work that he put in and, you know, the faith and the confidence that Toddy and the staff put in him. He just bought into everything. And now, you know, he's got a new contract and, you know, he's got a baby on the way. He's engaged. Man, he's had a huge year 22.
A lot of people ask me this, and I'm hoping you can answer as honestly as possible. Todd Payten, as a coach, I think we get a decent idea who he is, but what about as a bloke? Did you have interactions with him in the preseason where you got a chance to really get to know him?
Yeah, definitely. Look, a lot of people see Toddy as, you know, real serious character, very intense, and don't get me wrong, he is.
Yeah.
When he needs to be, he is very intense, very serious, and what you'd expect from a head coach and a leader of men. He is all of that. But on the other side, like Toddy's got a bit of a joker in him. He's a bit of a larrikin. He understands the football culture. He's, you know, played NRL. He's coached the juniors, worked his way up to now, you know, being the top dog or the sheriff in town. Yeah. So, yeah, look, I remember probably a moment in pre-season where Toddy had organised a barbecue at his house, and he said, look, all our spine players, so our 6, 7, 9 and 1, he invited us over for a beer and a barbecue, and we were sitting out the back deck at his house, and he had a whiteboard up, and he basically goes, boys, all right, sit down, let's talk about how we're going to play, what plays you want to run. You tell me what you think. And it was that moment I was like, man, I love this guy. This guy has given us ownership of the plan as well as buy-in, which created buy-in from the players. Like it wasn't him going this. While he makes the final decisions with everything, he just created so much buy-in from the players because he, you know, gave us a chance to be a part of the plan. And I think, you know, it showed us a side of what he was like. And from that moment on, you know, we just went on our merry way and, you know, practice what he was preaching. And, you know, like I said, everyone bought in from that moment, and it was a lot of fun.
It's funny, you run into and spoken to at length a few of the ex-Cowboys that are quite obviously impressed with what you guys pulled together this season. But how do you go about unlocking the best from the quieter kids? And I'll give an example. I know Antonio Winterstein, when he was at the Cowboys, a lot of the boys with Islander background, this is when Jason Taumalolo was first starting to come through, they called him King Us. And there's a great story of when they won the grand final in 2015. Apparently Winterstein didn't have to get up for a beer because the boys would just be up every time for him. Some of these kids that can be a bit quieter of nature, Murray Taulangi, for example, I mean, he's been overplaying for Australia at the World Cup. The jump we've seen with a few of those kids, it's not a coincidence. You and a few of the other blokes, I'm sure the coaching staff too, did you go about it a certain way to get the best?
Yeah, I think as you get a little bit older in the game and you've been playing, you know, quite a while, you understand, you know, not what works for some doesn't work for others. So, you know, you can't treat everyone the same. You have to, I guess...
different personality types.
Exactly.
Flex into them, yeah?
Definitely. Yeah. So, you know, you just mentioned Antonio Winterstein, who was a fantastic player, had a great career. But, you know, obviously on the quieter side of nature. So, you know, and someone who's a bit more out there, you know, you can have potentially have a bit more conversation and maybe, you know, approach, you know, those sorts of things. So I think understanding, you know, and that's, I guess, a part of what preseason and the training block is about, getting to know, you know, those players on a bit more of a personal level and building that combination. And I think us as a team and the coaches, again, like, they deserve the credit for bringing us together as a team and creating what we were, what our identity was. And, you know, like I said, it was built in the preseason.
Yeah.
And it was based off the back of hard work, hard training. And, it was very, very memorable.
No secret. So Dean Young, Todd Payten, obviously the two best looking bald blokes in Australia, but they formed this unique bond as well. Do you reckon that there's something in having two ex-players that I suppose aren't that long retired either as coaches?
Definitely. Look, those two are, you know, together an unstoppable force, I think.
Yeah.
They are, you know, so smart. They work so hard.
Yeah. Who gives the best serves?
Dino,
yeah,
definitely.
He's pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, they both do. But Dino's a guy that you want to play for.
Yeah.
And, like, I remember having a lot of conversation with Dino, picking his brain and, he had a great career at the Dragons. He's going to be a head coach one day. I truly believe that. He's a guy that when he speaks to me, I'm like, I will do anything to not let this guy down. Like that's just
run
the type
through
of
a wall.
Yep. And I can't run through a wall, but I try for him if he told me to, because that's the type of guy he is. And I guess he runs our defense, and we worked so hard on our defense last year, and we improved that a lot. And you would have seen that not only yourself commentating on the sideline, but a lot of the guys that we would have been watching on TV and whatever, that if there was a break for the opposition, like half of our team were there chasing back, and that's something that Dino had instilled at us and created a habit. And he deserves a lot of the props again for the season that we had in 2022.
It does look like the Cowboys went shopping for personality types too. I think a lot of clubs can unfortunately be guilty out of whether it's desperation or not the right background checks of, this bloke's talented, he can play, let's get him in. But there was a real approach of, besides you, because you're a knob, but good blokes. And someone like Pat Hiku, who we talk about leaders like Antonio Winterstein, you can tell that backline hangs off every word he says.
Yep, 100%. That's one of the first things going back to that original meeting was, Michael Lark, who's our general manager of football, said we want good people.
And he is a good person. He's a great bloke.
Look at the way he played the game, great bloke. So they want good people in the building. They want people to represent the North and the Cowboys with high distinction, and that's what they expect. So, the people that they go after and recruit, they do a detailed analysis of every single person. Like you said, they don't just go after, any player. They do a lot of research on it, and Pet's a guy who they identified who has had probably one of the best years of his career.
Yeah.
I played every single game, played multiple positions, scored a number of tries, set up Felty for a number of tries. Now has played every game in the World Cup for the Kiwis, starting right centre for New Zealand, the number one ranked team in the world. So, he's another guy. And there's so many guys who I could talk about who had, awesome years and, again, deserve a lot of credit for the work that they put in.
Do you know if there's, we'll go for fear for lack of a better word, I guess, players that have been based out of Sydney or even Brisbane most of their life, when they go to somewhere that is more regional, be it Townsville or be it Newcastle, wherever it might be, concerns about what the facilities might be like? Was there any worry there? And can you walk us through the setup that you guys have at the Cowboys?
Yeah, look, for me, I'd heard about the new facility the Cowboys are building, and, I'd heard it was phenomenal, unreal, and I never toured it before I'd signed. I saw a lot of photos and a big presentation, but it is state-of-the-art, brand spanking new, unbelievable, purpose-built for rugby league. We are so lucky to have the facility that we do. It's like a college, football NFL setup. Like it is.
You get your nap room. Who uses that the most?
A few of the young boys, actually. I haven't used it yet. And I'll probably
don't sleep.
I'll probably sleep the less out of all of them. I mean, some of the young guys are waking up at like 10 a.m. on their days off. I don't get past 6 with
17 kids.
With the kids, yeah. But look, we got we got a sleep room which is at altitude. We got cafeterias, we got a cafe, we got a lap pool, we got a sauna, spa, ice bath, physio rooms, massage chairs, indoor basketball court, indoor grass field, huge gym, all of our football staff offices, all of our admin staff offices, all in the same building. We've got a brand new field which is right outside, which is right next to our stadium. So
NRLW team coming in.
Team coming. The club is in very, very good hands. The facility's right in the city as well. So for people and fans who want to come to the footy, you just a quick stroll over to the city and you got
coffee shop.
Coffees, bars, nightclubs, restaurants, cafes, everything you got for a good day and a good experience up in North Queensland. So for me, at the Sharks, we never had a brand new facility.
Yeah.
But now I'm very, very, grateful to have the facility that we do. It's like you don't want to leave. You want to go in on your day off because it's that good.
And then you build towards next season. You lose Tommy Gilbert, who's a tremendous bloke and player, good character. You bring in a couple of blokes. One in particular, Jimmy Tamia gets a homecoming. Do you know if that was in the works for a while? Did that one shock you?
Yeah, I'd heard about it.
Yeah.
I'd never, I guess, spoken to the club about it. I'd obviously just heard it through the media. And then once it was done, I was so pumped. I'd met Jimmy a number of times just by playing against him and, speaking to him at a few events. Great bloke.
Yeah.
And, one of the Cowboys, I think, best players ever in history. I think, part of that 2015 Premiership winning team, he, knows, he bleeds, North Queensland. He understands, what it means to represent the jersey. And I think he's going to add tremendous value with experienced leadership and go forward for our team and our younger guys. Like, you imagine, some of our younger front rowers and our younger forwards, listening to when he's speaking. It's like, he deserves all that respect, and, he's going to be a huge addition to us. Plus, we got Jack as well. I don't want to say his last name. I don't want to pronounce it. Gashevsky.
I've heard it butchered about 17 times. That's the most common.
I'm going to learn that now. I'm going to ask him. But, he's, again, going to add some great value to our team. So, it's exciting. We do lose Gilbert and Hammer, both gone to the Dolphins, which will be huge losses for us. And but that's the way that this professional business works.
All right, off the field. Now it's talked about. You can confirm it being one of the tightest knit play groups of all time, not because of necessarily what happens at training and in those amazing facilities and having, I guess, I don't know, spoon training in the nap room together, but but away from footy, you guys are constantly together, whether it's getting coffee, other activities. What brought you so close?
Yeah, it is. It's a good question. I remember in 2016 when we won the comp at the Sharks, I remember Luke Lewis, who was one of the senior players at the time, he was, basically a driver of, I guess, the unofficial social club where, if he said, boys, we're going for coffee, like, there'd be 15 guys would turn up. Boys, we're going for lunch, 12, 15 guys would turn up, and he'd just be like, man, like, this is something here, like something's happening here. Like, you can't force people to turn up to events. Like, people have their busy lives outside of football as well. And it kind of happened with us this year, not only with, coffees and breakfasts and whatnot, but golf. Yeah. And, I think a lot of people know that I love my golf, and as a lot of the boys up here do love our golf as well. But, up here, like, the weather's so good all year round. Yeah. Like, even in the middle of winter, like, you don't wear a jumper. Like, we're out in the golf course, and there's about 6 or 8 of us that play, and even add that a lot of the younger boys are now starting to play as well. Yeah. And, we'd play at least once a week in the comp all together with our GA handicaps, and I'm in the same group. And obviously there's banter, there's, a lot of connection. And I think that played a huge part in us becoming mates off the field, and then, translating to on field as well. Like, there's, Hesse, there's Tommy Did, and there's Felty, there's Drinky, Val, and myself. We're like the main guys. We play together. And it's played a huge part in bringing us together.
I saw, and then we'll get to Players Golf Club in a sec, and I can rip on this because it wasn't that merch. What were you wearing when you played comp Saturday? Because you're a well-dressed man. That kit, the wide brim cricket hat from under 12s, and then the Speed Dealer Sunnies combination.
Yeah,
you're better than that.
Well, no, I needed to. I played my first I walked my first round since being up here. And obviously, it's off season. I'm not doing as much training now as I would in season or when I was back to training. So I was like, I'm just going to walk. And, I got my little buggy out and walked. And we teed off at 6:30, but by the time we finished, it's like 10:30. So the sun's obviously out, as you know. And I was like, I put my sleeves on, put my wide brim hat on, and my Speed Dealer Oakleys on, plus my sunscreen. I was like, I didn't get burnt at all.
That's the main thing.
So it ended up being I didn't care what I looked like. I didn't care what I looked like.
I think you should just a little bit more, because you can be sun safe and not be a Derek.
Hit 12 over for people wondering, but
okay.
Off the stick. So finished bogey double, but that didn't. Yeah, that hurt me. But I didn't care. Like, it's even at training, like I am zinc every day, all over my face, sunscreen. Like, I just don't like getting burnt.
Now, Players Golf Club, you, Drinky, Val, what was that born out of? Because it's not like you've just started creating golf content. You do a lot online. Sometimes if I'm having a boring Tuesday night, I'll chuck YouTube on the telly, much to my missus' dismay. But you get a kick out of that. But how did Players come about? When did the conversation start?
Yeah, so Players is something that sort of came about with Val, Drinky, and myself. We become quite close mates, the three of us. I'd obviously known Val from my time at Cronulla, and I'm going to get the boys on the podcast and sort of do a deep dive more into Players. But it basically was an idea for us to sort of just create our own golf brand. Like, we wanted to create our own hats and polos and, knowing the boys like Val, like and Drinky, like love golf. I think Val loves it more than Drinky.
Mm-hmm.
Like Val, Val.
Does he know how to take a drop? A couple of the videos say otherwise.
He's suspect, Val. You got to keep an eye on him. But like, right, Val, if we got a tee time, say we're playing, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we're just playing 9 holes. 12 o'clock, Val will be fully dressed, practice swinging in his lounge room. Like, that's how much he loves golf. And sometimes his wife will take a photo of him saying he's full kit, like he's got his shirt tucked in, ready to go, like cleaning his clubs the night before. Like, he absolutely loves it. And I love that about Val, because like he's got a big interest outside of football as well. But yeah, like I said, golf is something that we love. We were like, why don't we just create something? Let's create our own hats and wear our own stuff on the course, because we're playing so much. And we started making some "Can you make a par" videos, which are pretty funny. Sometimes they don't always work out as much as we'd like, but that's golf, as you know. You can't hit them well all the time. And I think golf is definitely a growing sport, I think, since post-COVID. So we're still, we had to delay the launch of players with a few things that were kind of out of our control and some supply stuff, which, wasn't ideal, but we were like, we don't want to rush it. We want to make sure that the merch and the brand is ready and, the website. And I think at the end of the day, it's just that, it plays a part in life where it's like, having interest outside of football. I've always been a guy that is well balanced, because like I love football, but I also love doing things outside of the sport as well. Because that does keep me balanced, keeps me routine, keeps me organised, and players golf is just one of those things that plays a part.
What's it? Normally in a business, you might have, if there's 3, which there are, you might have a driver of making things happen, someone with ideas that aren't necessarily possible, but it's a good thing to have, and then someone that either takes a back seat or can sometimes forget meetings are happening. Is there?
Okay, so I'll be the driver.
Yeah.
What was the middle one?
Creativity with
Drinky.
Yeah, okay.
Drinky's creative. Drinky's got a couple of great ideas with things that he likes to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'll just text me at night, why don't we do this? Let's do this. And I'm like, mate, I love that. Like, your mind's ticking, thinking, being creative, thinking about things, outside the box. And then backseat's kind of Val. Yeah. Like, we'll just be sitting, because obviously, we're, for guys, like we travel a lot. Yeah. So we spend a lot of time, again, on flights and airports, in hotels, and that was another reason why we wanted to do it, just to make do of our spare time. And we're in Sydney one week, and we're in my hotel room, and we're just talking, and we're running through some sizing and things like that. And Val was in the corner just on his phone on TikTok watching golf videos.
Practicing his swing, yeah.
But, Val has definitely contributed in other ways, but it's always funny, to take the piss out of the boys. But at the end of the day, look, the 3 of us have had a lot of fun creating it. We're going to hopefully launch early in 2023, and it'll be a lot of fun, and we really hope that everyone, gets behind it and supports it.
You spoke earlier about getting the best out of blokes. Val is one of them. I mean, Val's back to career best form, and probably doesn't get enough recognition for what he did in Cronulla, that 2016 run. And then there are very few athletes in the world that can code hop at all. There is a smallest percentile that can go to the NFL, which is what he did. He went to the Jets, he cracked that roster, he came back home. Has he spoken to you about the adjustment period to getting back to rugby league? Because in his own words, it took him probably a full season to get back to the Val that we know. Yeah,
definitely. Look, I think it's no doubt it probably took him a little bit, but I think one thing with Val is, like, he's such an athlete. Like, he is, on all of our records, our power, our speed records, like, he's up there. His name's up there with...
and he doesn't get nervous.
He doesn't get nervous.
No.
He's the ice man.
Yeah.
I mean, you see him kick goals, field goals in the clutch moments. He wants the ball in his hands, and that's what I love about him. It's kind of the same thing on the golf course too. He'll, if we're going down the wire, like, he's about that. Like, he wants that pressure. So he's a big game player. Obviously had a huge time at the Sharks with 16 winning the comp. 18. I think he broke the try scoring record of David Peachy's. I think it was. Goes over to the Jets. I think, speaking to Val, he's probably the route he took with the international player.
Yeah.
I think he would have changed that because the international rules didn't allow him to play.
Yeah.
So I think, maybe potentially going over as a free agent and trying to just find a club would have been, more of an ideal position for him.
Yeah.
But some of the highlights of him scoring touchdowns in training camp were amazing.
Yeah.
He's caught like 6 or 7 balls off the jug, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He's an athlete. He had a tremendous year. And yeah, like you don't write someone off like that.
Yeah.
Like you look at the year he had in 2022, played every single game for the Cowboys except one because he got rested from Origin, played 3 Origins, played 2 finals games, played every game pretty much for Australia in the World Cup. We're at the time of recording this, like with Australia's just about to play Samoa in World Cup final, but you have to give the Aussies the favourite. So if he wins a World Cup, what a tremendous year he's had, and he'll only get better. And I think just quickly, he's done it in a couple of different positions as well. Over the course of his career, he's played wing, he's won a comp at wing, he's played Origin, wing, fullback, and centre. Like he's doing this all now in a new position in centre. He played before this year. He played one position in one game in centres. And who made the call to put him into left centre? It was Toddy. He said, "Mate, I want to put you in centres."
And people bagged the idea.
They did.
Yeah.
But that's people outside of the school, outside of our sort of in-house, and again going back to quickly on Toddy and Dino, like they coached him up to the hill before training. Dino, Val, come see me. I want to talk to you about this. Come see me. Learn defense. And you look at he was a pillar. Him and Pet on the edges about how we defend, when to jam, when to not, when to be passive, when to wait.
When he gave confidence to the blokes outside,
100%. And the combination of him and Murray together was excellent. So again, to do it in a couple of different positions, it is so tough.
Yeah.
But he makes it look so easy. And I think, I think he's only maybe 28 years old now, 27 or 28, and
so he's hitting the prime now.
So when he what he's done already in his career, like when he calls it a day, he'll be one of the greatest players of all time, in my opinion.
Back to your life outside of footy, mentioned the golf, your family obviously incredibly important. You got a newborn bub, so that is kid number 4 that you guys have collected now. Well done. But you love your NFL as well. When did that fandom start? And because it's to a point now where I know you got your fantasy leagues, you're relatively quick to brag that you're winning in them.
Always, of course. That's a part of fantasy. So I remember it was when I first moved to New Zealand to play for the Warriors. In my first year over there was 2014. And I watched college football, right? And at that stage, it was Texas A&M lighting the house on fire. Johnny Manziel and Mike Evans, these quarterback and receiver, just going off. And I was like, man, I like this guy, Johnny Manziel. His nickname was Johnny Football. He was doing the cash money whenever he'd throw a touchdown. He had swagger, confidence. And I was like, man, I like this guy. Wherever he gets drafted, that's the team I'm going to follow.
Right.
And anyway, fast forward, he got drafted. I think it was like late in the first round to the Browns. And anyway, Johnny Manziel, became a bust. Alcoholic, was out of the league in I think 2 or 3 years, which was obviously disappointing for him. But I was like, I'm just going to stick solid with the Browns, and 2 years where the Browns didn't win a game. So you
should have followed Mike Evans in hindsight. That would have been good for you.
But it's been a rough ride. But I like the Browns. They've got a history of losing. But for me, I'm gonna stick solid. I've got faith that hopefully towards the back end of the current season. I know Deshaun Watson's had his troubles off the field, but he's someone who I think can change the franchise around. And fantasy's a big part. I'm in 2 leagues as well. I love my fantasy. I want to get you involved next year, which we've spoken about. But it can make or break your Monday fantasy, and you'll find out next year when you're involved in it.
You mentioned your fandom for that. Would you see you love your digital creation? Could you see a world where, and we do see crossover in terms of the way that some of the things off the field happen with American football and rugby league? I love the insight you get in NFL. For example, a show like Hard Knocks, for those that haven't seen it, it's normally, they do an in-season one now, but it's normally a pre-season show, runs for 4 or 5 weeks, where you learn about roster cuts, who's moved to each team, pre-seasons, that kind of thing. I know the Dolphins are doing something not too dissimilar on Stan. That comes out in a bit. But would you like to see more of that implemented in the NRL?
Definitely. Look, I think as many people understand about me, I am pretty creative in terms of, like, I like to, I like videography and photography. I like to take photos. I like to record things. That kind of stemmed from me, growing up. I loved watching Jackass, Johnny Knoxville and all those guys, the home videos they used to make.
I would have never picked you for that. Yeah, right.
When I was younger, being a 90s kid, we used to...
Did you run into walls after that? And
Definitely
jump off?
not.
Yeah.
But we used to try and do our own stunts and film it, and, that's kind of where it stemmed. I made a video when I was in year 12 of our last year, and then, as I got older, I was like, I'm just going to continue to do it, and, people know that I've got the vlog channel, which I give, a bit of an insight into what happens in my life, but I've been vlogging for probably 4 years, and I've got so many memories of my family, my kids at young age, things that I've done. And I know that one day, I'll look back on them and go, wow, that's so cool. I've got that stuff recorded. And, part of it, my motivation as well with it does stem from the NFL and the access that they give. Like you just mentioned, Hard Knocks, absolutely love Hard Knocks. There's a camera inside the coach's office when he cuts a player. That is unbelievable access. And we'll probably never get that over here, but just watch how they operate.
But even mic'd up.
Yeah.
I mean, the one with you against Manly is outstanding.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I didn't even know the mic was awesome. I didn't even know. I forgot that, tried to forget that it was on.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything just because the mic was on. And that was kind of the thing that I'd spoken to Ben about, before. It's I just wanted to make sure that it's on and it's done. I'm in game mode. And it was. It was great. It came out great. Obviously, the way that game went helped us.
Worked out okay in the end.
As well. But, even doing the podcast, I know that a lot of NFL players do their own podcasts, and I love watching them.
Yep.
I love hearing them speak about the game, what they do off the field, the insight that they give, and that's why I thought for me it's a great way to do the same thing, give people a bit of an access, a bit of an opening into my life, and I'm not sure what I'll do when I finish playing football. So that's something that excites me, and at the end of the day, I just want to do something that I enjoy. So that's kind of the reason why.
Well, we've had you doing a bit of radio with Team Triple M this year. You coming back?
Yeah, the plan is to come back. Yeah,
I heard there's contract negotiations ongoing. There's 7 figures that have been put in front of someone, or I'm not 100% sure, but it is nice that from a mate perspective. I've seen you grow from when you started doing stuff on the rush hour, where it was a lot of conversation about footy, to the end of that you're doing an hour show where you yap on about anything, which is outstanding. So you could be Tom Brady and play in the NRL till you're 45, right? I don't know.
Don't think so.
But when you're done, I know you like to keep your options open, but is that something you'd like to do?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Look, I think, from what I do now, people understand that the TV and radio is a big interest of mine, and the game, sport. I love sport, yourself. I love sport. I love rugby league. I live and breathe rugby league, but I love golf. I love cricket. I want to be involved in sport, and whether that's coaching, whether that's media, commentary, that's what I want to do. And I want to do something that I enjoy. And, I think doing it now while I'm still playing a little bit on the side here and there, just to show people what I'm doing and what I'm interested in, it's a good thing. And there's a lot of players now who do things on the side, whether it's building, whether it's, personal training, just to sort of get themselves ready and show that, they've done a little bit, I guess, on the side. But just quickly, I thought I'd touch on the rush hour. So I thought
you were skipping that question.
So people who may not know, I guess people who are not up here in Queensland, every Monday I'd go on with yourself and AB, the rush hour, which is a lot of fun. We obviously talk about the game that just happened. We do the captain's challenge, which is you guys came up with, which was a bit of fun. Do you want to tell the people what that was about?
I won't claim the idea. Actually, that was AB, our co-host and our boss. It was it had audio of you having a huge whinge in that Manly game about how it wasn't you putting the captain's challenge forward and laying on the ground and crying till you got your way, and then bang, people would have the opportunity to. I think you would bring a topic and people would have the opportunity to challenge what you thought, whether it was people stand up at the end of flights at Derricks or whatever it is.
I was like, I don't know. The first one was like, is it okay for, if you're in an airplane, for the person in front of you to have their seat reclined?
That's right. On a short-term flight.
Yeah, give us a call, 133353.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's the number. See, you're ready to go. You can't leave if you know the number.
Give us a call, 133353. Is it okay for someone to recline the seat? It was literally, we took off, boom, seat was in my face. I was like, come on, man. And it wasn't one of the boys, because otherwise I would have slapped on the top of the head.
Yeah.
But it was just someone from the general public. And I was like, I didn't say anything. I was like, I'm just going to
would you? I mean, if that was Jason Taumalo that leaned back into you, you'd slap him across the head.
I'd probably slap him.
You would not slap
But
Jason.
I'd let him do it. I wouldn't tell him to stop it just because, the king of the north. You don't mess.
You don't mess.
That's Siri on my watch. Sorry. That you don't mess with the big dog.
All right. Before we let you run away to whatever you're doing today, let's have a look at this podcast. As you said, it's back for the first time in 2 years. Guest-wise, you mentioned maybe Drinky and Val. Are there any others on your hit list?
Yeah, definitely. So we've got Michael Morgan
Great.
lined up. He's agreed to come on, which I'm really, really keen to have a chat to Mick about. Obviously, he's retired from the game now. Yep. He's just signed on to become, I think it's assistant coach of the Black Hawks, which is a Queensland Cup team up here, which, is forming the next part of his life. He's just had his second baby as well. I know he's got a lot of things going on off the field. He had a tremendous career, so I'm really, really keen to speak to him about, the Cowboys, what he's doing now with his life, and go into a bit of a deep dive with his career. Obviously, as he said, Drinky and Val, want to get those boys on, speak a bit about the golf brand, and sort of, talk about, I guess, what we've been doing in that space. And haven't spoken to any others yet, but I'm going to lock in a few more. I want to get Gavin Cooper on. He's someone who I'd love to have a chat. No, you guys speak with Coops on Triple M as well.
He's a friend of the show. Huge flog, but great personality. So he's good. And Morgo, touched on him. People that listen to this or watch it, however they consume it, will love hearing him speak, because I'll never say it to his face because I don't want to pump his tyres up. He has one of the great brains. He's not a person that thinks that much about rugby league when he's not there, or he's pretty good at switching off. He's a deep thinker. He's certainly not your typical rugby league player, and you've had a little bit to do with him. He's a tremendous fella.
That's what I've heard about Morgo. Like I never played with Morgo. I'd played against him my whole career. Like we're the same age. Yeah. We played against each other like way back in
schoolboys,
New South Wales, Queensland under-18s. Yeah. Made our debuts together. Played against each other pretty much our whole careers. Played some big games against each other. But I'd heard that a bit about him from the other guys at the club. That he's pretty casual. Kind of guy, and I've spent a bit of time with him up here since I've been in Townsville, and I've sort of learnt that a bit about him. But like I said, I'm keen to speak to him, and I'm going to reach out to a few other of the past Cowboys players as well.
Coop's a big one. He just had double hip replacement.
Oh, jeez.
He's been on. I don't know how he got it, whether he stole it from Harvey Norman or what, but he's got the old lazy boy set up at home, and he's been sleeping on that. He's been at home for 3 weeks going stir crazy. So I'm sure he'd love to jump on this to get
rugby
something
league,
done.
The game that just keeps on giving, isn't it?
Exactly right.
Yeah. So I'd love to get those guys on, and there's a few others that obviously I'm not going to speak in case we don't get them on, but a few others that I've got locked in.
You're hoping for. Oh, okay.
But we're going to try and just record a heap of episodes and then release them, 1 week after each other before the season starts, and then obviously we'll get stuck into the season, and then maybe bring it back next off season. So
well, you're back on deck, mate. You're back.
Yeah. But mate, thanks so much for coming on today, mate. I appreciate you facilitating and running through a few things. And I thought it'd be a great insight for the audience. And like I said, thanks.
You're paying me in players' golf shirts when they come out.
If you break 100, I'll get you polo.
110 yesterday was a bad
That's
day.
terrible.
And a broken club.
That's terrible.
It was an accident.
That's terrible.
Against the pole. Anyway, on you, Chad.
All right, well, that's it, guys. The first episode of the new series of the Chad Townsend Show. Want to give a huge shout out to the guys at 537 Media, Robbie and Lockie, for letting us use their studio today. Obviously, a massive shout out to Elliot. You guys can check out the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and also you can watch it on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to all those 3 channels. It's going to be a really cool series. I really appreciate you tuning in for today's episode, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Stay classy. Let's go. Nailed it. Let's go.